My 3-year-old daughter opened a cracked dollar store toy at Christmas while my sister's kids unwrapped iPads, designer hoodies and gift cards. My mom laughed. I got up, walked to my trunk, brought in the gifts I bought, then set them on the table and said, "These were for all of you. But not anymore." The room went dead silent. Until my sister snapped. Christmas morning, and my daughter was sitting on the carpet with a Dollar Tree doll whose arm was already cracked before she even pulled it from the plastic. She smiled anyway. That's just who she is. Sweet. Undemanding. Always trying to see the good. She was wearing little red pajamas with reindeer on them, and she clutched that broken toy like it was magic. Across the room, my sister's kids were tearing through layers of expensive wrapping paper. iPads. Yeezy hoodies. Spa gift cards. Nintendo Switch games. Laughter. Squeals. Noise. And then there was my mom sitting with her coffee, smirking at the whole thing like it was a sitcom. When my daughter held up the broken doll and asked if maybe there was another present for her, my mom didn't say a word. She just looked at me and laughed. That low, nasal laugh she always did when she was mocking someone. I didn't react right away. I wanted to, but I didn't want to ruin the morning. I just smiled at my daughter and helped her sit down to play. But inside something snapped. Let me be clear. I had gifts for all of them. Thoughtful ones. Not dollar store crap. Weeks of planning, shopping, careful wrapping. I had spent hours baking cookies, making homemade cocoa mixes, finding small items each of them would actually enjoy. And yes, despite how I'm usually treated, I had done it because I still had some hope. Stupid, stubborn hope. But when my daughter was completely ignored, again, something shifted. I stood up without saying anything. Walked out the front door in silence. Everyone probably thought I was going for a walk or taking a call. Nope. I walked straight to the trunk of our car, popped it open, and stood there for a second looking at the mountain of wrapped gifts inside. Then I picked them all up. Every last one. When I walked back in, the chaos hadn't even slowed. My sister's oldest was already setting up his new drone. My dad was opening a bottle of wine, joking that it was too early but not really. I dropped the stack of gifts onto the dining table, hard. That got their attention. I looked at everyone. My husband had gone still, his face tight like he was waiting for me to lose it. I said these were for all of you. But not anymore. Dead silence. Even my niece paused her unboxing. My daughter clutched her doll. My mom's eyes narrowed. My sister, well, she never could stand silence. She said, maybe if you weren't so damn sensitive all the time, people would want to include you. She said that. Out loud. In front of her kids. In front of my daughter. And before I could even open my mouth, someone else did. My husband. And for the first time in a very long time, he didn't hold back. I didn't know what he was going to say. Honestly, I wasn't even sure he would say anything. My husband's always been the calm one. Quiet in the car after family dinners. Stiff smiles. Short answers. He never liked confrontation, not with my family anyway. I used to think he was just trying to keep the peace. Now I wonder if he was trying to protect me from what would happen if he ever let go. But this time he let go. He stood up slowly, looked straight at my sister and said, "You really think this is okay? Sitting here watching a toddler unwrap a broken toy while your kids rip open tech and $100 gift cards? And you're laughing?" The room shifted. No one spoke. My sister blinked, then scoffed and said something like, "Oh, here we go." Then she went on one of her classic tirades. She said I was always looking for a reason to play victim. That I chose this life, like struggling financially, was a character flaw. She even brought up our apartment, mocked my job, said something about how it wasn't her fault we couldn't provide. And then she crossed a line. She laughed and asked how it felt to be married to someone who works so hard for so little. I didn't even get a word in. My husband, who had spent years biting his tongue, absolutely exploded. He told her to shut her mouth. Loud. Direct. No hesitation. He told her she was selfish, manipulative, and cruel. That she had spent years pretending to be this poor single mom while quietly draining him behind the scenes. He looked around the room and said, "You all know she's been using me, right? I've been paying her bills, buying her kids' school supplies, fixing her car. And she still has the nerve to humiliate my daughter on Christmas?" The silence was thick. My mom opened her mouth to say something, I don't even know what, but he cut her off. "And you sat there and let it happen. Every year you do this. You act like our daughter is invisible. You know what? We're done." My dad muttered something about how we shouldn't be airing private stuff in front of the kids. My sister's kids were frozen, watching it all unfold like it was a reality show. My daughter just looked confused, still holding that cracked doll like it was something worth holding onto. That's when my husband walked over to the dining table and started gathering the gifts. One by one. Calm, steady. No yelling anymore. Just done. I stood there for a second, then picked up my daughter. My sister started yelling again. Something about how we were overreacting. That we were ruining Christmas. That she didn't ask for help, he just offered. We didn't answer. We walked out the front door with all the gifts we had brought. Not a single person followed us. We didn't go home. We drove straight to my Uncle Ron's place. The one who lives 20 minutes out of town. The one my mom always calls a loser because he married some girl who works at a gas station. Like that's a moral failure. Ron has never pretended to be rich. But his family has always made us feel welcome even when my own didn't. We showed up uninvited with a trunk full of presents. I told him briefly what had happened. He didn't ask for details. He just opened the door and told us to come in. I gave his kids the gifts I'd meant for mine. Some of them weren't perfect fits. A makeup kit meant for my niece went to his teenage daughter and she loved it. My daughter got to sit on the floor with other kids and actually laugh. We had cookies and coffee. We talked. It felt like Christmas for the first time in years. That night, on the drive home, my daughter fell asleep with a candy cane in her hand. Still clutching that broken toy, but now surrounded by other ones that actually worked. And something in me felt lighter. Not happy exactly, but lighter. The next morning I woke up to a string of missed calls. That's when everything really started to fall apart. The next morning, before the sun was even up, my phone started buzzing. At first I ignored it. I just lay there staring at the ceiling. My daughter was asleep between us, her little hands curled up near her face, peaceful like nothing had happened. But it had. And I had a feeling the fallout was just beginning. The buzzing didn't stop. By the time I reached for the phone, I had 12 missed calls. 5 from my mom. 7 from my sister. Texts too, stacked one after another like someone trying to win an argument before the other person wakes up. My stomach dropped. My mom's first message said we had disrespected the family. That my husband had acted out and embarrassed everyone. That I'd overreacted over one silly toy. That Christmas was supposed to be about family and forgiveness. Not grudges. Not drama. There was no mention of my daughter. My sister's messages were longer. Angrier. She accused me of being manipulative. Said I'd turned my husband against her, like he was some mindless soldier I sent into battle. She told me I was jealous, not just of her money but her life. Her kids. Her status in the family. She said I'd always felt left out and this was just me having a tantrum because no one caters to me. And then, the one that pushed me over the edge. Your daughter is going to grow up thinking the world owes her something. And that's on you. I handed the phone to my husband. I couldn't read another word. He didn't even flinch. He just looked at me and said, "That's it. She's done." Thought he meant the fight. That we'd give it space and wait for things to cool down. But he meant something else entirely. He meant done. He meant no more money. No more rent payments. No more Venmo transfers when her card declined. No more just until next week, grocery runs. No more helping with school supplies, car repairs, birthday party decorations, or unexpected fees. It wasn't small stuff either. He pulled up the bank statements and showed me. He'd been sending her money every month for over 3 years. He had never said thank you. Not once. And he'd never told me how much it really was. Because he said he didn't want me to feel like we had to choose. But now, he was choosing. He sent her a single text. "You're cut off. You've taken enough from me and treated my family like we're nothing. Figure it out yourself." Then he blocked her. 10 minutes later my mom called. He answered it on speaker. She didn't even ask if we were okay. She started crying, not real tears, the guilt trip kind. She said this was tearing the family apart. That my sister was a single mom doing her best. That my husband's outburst had caused irreparable damage. He waited until she finished. Then he said, "Funny. You didn't think it was damaging when your granddaughter opened a broken toy while everyone else opened iPads." Silence. He said, "For years, you've made excuses for her. For her behavior. Her attitude. Her selfishness. You've let her insult my wife in front of everyone and laughed like it was a joke. We're done pretending. If you want a relationship with us, it has to look different." Then he hung up. I didn't say a word for a while. I just looked at him, wondering who this man was. This calm, focused, protective version of the guy I'd married. I felt more seen in that moment than I had in the last 5 years. The rest of the day was quiet. My daughter colored at the kitchen table while we cleaned up from the day before. The house felt lighter somehow. Like something toxic had been sucked out. But I knew my sister. She wasn't going to take this quietly. And she didn't. By Thursday, the messages from mutual relatives started rolling in. Apparently, my sister had been calling people. Telling them she was being cut off financially because she dared to speak her mind. Painting herself as a victim. Saying my husband was emotionally unstable. That I was trying to break up the family. But she made one big mistake. She forgot how many people she owed money to. Because once word got out that she'd been living off my husband for 3 years, some very interesting conversations started happening. Conversations she couldn't control. And for the first time in a very long time, she wasn't holding all the cards. By Thursday night, it felt like someone had finally turned the lights on in a room that had been dark for years. My phone started lighting up, not with angry messages like I expected, but confused ones. Cousins, an aunt I barely talked to, even someone I hadn't seen since my wedding. They weren't asking me to apologize. They weren't telling me I'd gone too far. They were asking questions. Is it true your husband's been helping your sister financially? How long has that been going on? Are you guys okay? Then one message stopped me cold. It was from my cousin Jake. He sent screenshots. Actual screenshots. Messages from my sister asking for money last year for a medical emergency. He followed it up with, she said it was urgent. I never got the money back. I didn't want to bring it up, but after what happened at Christmas, I feel stupid. He wasn't the only one. Over the next day, more people quietly admitted they'd helped her too. Rent money, utility bills, school supplies. None of them had known about each other. She'd played everyone separately, always with a crisis, always with a story. And somehow she still managed to walk into Christmas acting superior. But the most unexpected message came Friday morning. It was from her ex. The man she'd spent years destroying with stories. According to her, he was useless. Absent. A deadbeat who didn't care about his kids. I'd heard it so many times I'd stopped questioning it. He messaged me and said he didn't want drama. Said he'd stayed quiet for years for the kids' sake. But now my sister was telling people my husband had abandoned her financially, and that crossed a line. Then he sent proof. Child support payments. Consistent. Through the state. Years worth. No gaps. No excuses. She had been collecting child support the entire time. And still taking money from my husband. From cousins. From anyone who felt guilty enough to help. I just stared at my phone. I didn't feel triumphant. I felt sick. Like I'd finally seen the full picture of something I'd been standing inside of for years without realizing it. I didn't share the screenshots. I didn't confront her. I didn't need to. The truth started spreading on its own. Group chats went quiet. People stopped defending her. One cousin removed her from a family event invite entirely. Another posted something vague about helpers getting burned, which everyone knew was about her. Then Saturday afternoon something else happened. A package showed up on our porch. No return address. Inside was a brand new hoodie for my daughter. Soft pink. Her size. Still had the tag on it. Folded neatly like someone had actually taken time. At the bottom of the box was a small note. I'm sorry for Christmas. No explanation. No excuses. No justification. Just that. I sat on the couch for a long time holding it. My sister doesn't apologize. She rewrites history until you question your own memory. This wasn't her style at all. And that's when it hit me, this wasn't remorse. This was panic. That night, after our daughter was asleep, my husband opened his banking app. He wasn't angry. He wasn't emotional. He was methodical. He showed me a list of recurring transfers. One of them wasn't to my sister. It was to my mom. Small amounts. Monthly. Quiet. For years. I felt my chest tighten. He said she'd framed it as help, just until things stabilize. Groceries. A bill here and there. Always private. Always framed like it was temporary. He looked at me and said, I didn't tell you because I didn't want you to feel like you owed them anything. And that's when I realized something that made my hands shake. This wasn't just about my sister being arrogant or cruel. This was a system. A family that leaned on us financially while laughing at us socially. Taking help while treating us like the weak link. And the second that help disappeared, everything started cracking. My husband closed the app and said, I'm done funding people who don't respect my wife or my child. I believed him. And judging by the sudden apology, the quiet group chats, and the way people were scrambling to save face, so did everyone else. The quiet didn't last. It never does in families like mine. Ones built on secrets, favors, and manipulation dressed up as tradition. For a few days after the hoodie showed up, it felt like maybe, just maybe, things were shifting. No texts. No calls. No one showing up or pretending nothing happened. The silence was loud, but it didn't feel threatening. Felt like people were scared. But I should have known better. It was Sunday night when I found out what was really going on. My cousin Melissa, the one who always stayed neutral, who'd seen both sides for years but never stirred the pot, sent me a message. She just said, I think you need to hear this. And then she dropped a voice memo. It was a recording of a conversation between my sister and my mom. How Melissa got it, I'll never know, and I didn't ask. I sat at the kitchen table while my husband bathed our daughter, phone in hand, stomach in knots. The audio started mid-laugh. My sister said she actually thinks we're sorry. Can you believe that? Just give it a couple weeks. Amanda always breaks first. She'll come crawling back like she always does. especially once she runs out of babysitters. And then my mom, my own mother, replied she needs us more than we need her. Just let it play out. Let them have their little meltdown. They'll come around. They always do. I felt cold. My body was still, but my mind was racing. Not because it was surprising, but because it was confirmation. All those years I thought I was being paranoid, dramatic, overreacting. Nope. I was just being slowly dismantled by people who counted on my silence. I sent the voice memo to my husband without saying a word. He walked into the kitchen 20 minutes later, phone in hand, and said, "We're done." That night he opened his laptop, pulled up the last 5 years of bank statements, and began sorting every payment he'd ever sent to them. Rent, grocery money, emergency car repairs, surprise expenses that always seemed to come up around the holidays. Little transfers that added up to thousands. He didn't get emotional. He didn't vent. He just typed out a list. Then he wrote a short email. He attached the list. He wrote, "Attached is a record of the financial support we've provided over the last several years. Please consider this final. Do not contact us for further assistance. Going forward, we are choosing to invest in people who respect our family." Then he hit send. To my sister. To my mom. To my dad. We sat in silence for a long time after that. I felt like I could finally exhale. Not because it was over, but because we'd finally called it what it was. But my sister wasn't done. Not yet. The next morning my husband called me from work. He said she's here. Thought he was joking. He wasn't. She had shown up at his office. With her kids in the backseat. No warning. No shame. She stood outside the building and texted him to come out. She said she just wanted to talk. He walked outside but didn't invite her in. She started crying. Not the kind of crying you do when you're sorry, but the kind you do when the game doesn't go your way. She said she was struggling. Said the money stopping was putting her in a bad place. That she didn't expect to be cut off cold. That she'd made mistakes, but she was family. Then she dropped this line. "You don't get to abandon me after everything I've been through." He told her to go home. That night she sent me a string of texts. The last one just said, "Please, don't do this to me." I didn't answer. And I think that silence scared her more than anything else. 2 days later we got a knock at the door. I opened it and froze. She wasn't there. But her daughter was. Holding a handwritten card. Shifting awkwardly. I let her inside, gave her a cookie, and she handed me the envelope. My sister had written a letter. A long one. He said she was sorry. That she was ashamed. That she felt cornered and didn't know how to fix what she'd broken. She asked if we could meet, just the two of us. To talk. I didn't know what to say. My husband didn't tell me what to do. He just said, "It's your call now." And for the first time in years it really was. I hadn't responded yet when I got another message. But this one wasn't from my sister. It was from someone I hadn't spoken to in over a year. A distant family friend, someone who used to be close with my mom before quietly backing away. He said, "I heard something at your mom's house last week. I wasn't supposed to. You need to know what they're saying about you." What she told me changed everything. The message came late. Too late for it to be casual. I was lying in bed next to my sleeping daughter, scrolling past recipes I'd never make in homes I couldn't afford, trying to ignore the heavy silence in the house. My husband was still awake in the living room, flipping through emails, the glow of his laptop just barely visible from the hallway. Then I saw the notification. It was from Lorraine, my mom's old friend. The kind of woman who always knew when to speak up and when to stay out of things. I hadn't heard from her in over a year. Just a small profile picture, a single unread message, and a knot forming in my stomach before I even opened it. She wrote, "Amanda, I'm really sorry to be the one to tell you this. I overheard something at your mom's house last week and I haven't been able to shake it. You deserve to know." I read that part 3 times before I tapped on the next line. She continued, "Your sister and your mom were talking in the kitchen. I was in the hallway looking for my purse. I don't think they knew I was still there. I wish I hadn't heard it, but I did." Then she quoted them. Word for word. Your sister had said, "Just give it time. Amanda always thinks people change. She'll cave like she always does." And then my mom laughed and said, "She needs us more than she realizes. Let her pretend she's mad. We'll be back in soon enough. Just play along." That apology letter was a smart move. They were talking about the letter. The hoodie. The card her daughter had brought to our doorstep. The moments I'd spent debating whether to believe that something inside my sister had actually cracked. Whether people like her, people who manipulate as easily as they breathe, were ever truly sorry. Turns out they were just playing the long game. Lorraine said she didn't want to stir the pot. That she'd sat with it for a week hoping it would fade. But when she saw my daughter at a birthday party a few days earlier, spinning in a sparkly dress with face paint on her cheeks, something in her shifted. She said it felt wrong watching a child that innocent be brought into a game so calculated. That was the word she used. Game. And she was right. That's exactly what it had always been. A game I wasn't supposed to win. A game I wasn't even supposed to see clearly. I didn't respond right away. I just lay there in the dark, the message glowing in my hands, my daughter breathing softly beside me. In the morning, I sat at the kitchen table, opened the drawer and pulled out the letter. I hadn't read it since the day it arrived. The apology I thought might, maybe, be a real turning point. It read like someone trying to cover their tracks, not someone trying to clean up a mess. There was no mention of what she'd said at Christmas. No mention of my daughter's name. No details. Just vague regrets, promises to do better, and a line about how family should stick together. I folded it once, twice, 3 times and placed it back in the envelope. Then I stood up, went to the hallway closet and pulled down the bin labeled Christmas decorations. I opened the lid and dropped the envelope inside. It could stay buried there with the tangled lights and broken ornaments, right where all the fake things belong. Later that day I texted Lorraine back. I thanked her. I told her she had done the right thing. And I meant it. That night my husband and I sat down after dinner, our daughter busy drawing jellyfish on the kitchen tiles with chalk. He didn't ask what I was going to do next. He didn't offer advice or weigh in. He just waited, letting me be the one to decide. So I said it. I'm not going back. Not for a birthday. Not for a holiday. Not because they send something in the mail. Not because they suddenly remember my daughter's name. They've lost access. They've lost trust. And they don't even know it yet, not really. But they will. Because when they finally realize I'm not showing up this time, and that my husband isn't bending, and that there are no more gifts or favors or silent forgiveness waiting for them, that's when it'll hit. I didn't make a scene. I just made a choice. And this time I'm sticking to it.